I have a question for you guys. Who lives in a pineapple under this?
Brother, this guy stinks!
I have never thought so long and hard about how to open a video. Like, what do I say? SpongeBob isn't this touchy subject that's hard to talk about. He's not extremely complex. There's no deep narrative to form an opinion around. It's SpongeBob SquarePants. But the character and franchise that has been built for over 20 years now has grown to become one of, if not the most culturally significant and important franchises in the world. Like, they really brought a dude in a SpongeBob outfit to open the stock market. Like, what the fuck? Alongside characters such as Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Homer Simpson, Jesus Christ, SpongeBob might not have the same time on his side that those other characters have. But today, in 2022, and it seems like for decades now, the character and franchise has been far more important in our culture than any of those have in years. Except for like a couple weeks in 2021 where Bugs Bunny was on top of the world again. For all the wrong reasons. But how on earth did this happen? How did SpongeBob become the most popular character in the entire world? Why is he so significant to our culture today? And why will he be for generations to come? Well, in this video today, we're going to be going over all that. We're going to take a trip back to when SpongeBob was first created to see how this happened, and see how he was slowly but surely built into this giant behemoth of a franchise. We'll also talk about some of the stuff that's going on with the franchise right now, but let's not jump the shark. This is the cultural importance of SpongeBob SquarePants. So I'm not sure if some of you guys know this, but I'm a really big Sonic the Hedgehog fan. Not sure if you guys could tell. But with a character like that who was turned into an icon, Sonic was thought up inside of a boardroom on how to compete with Nintendo. He was created by a bunch of suits, not necessarily fully out of heart. Or Sonic was just a cash cow made to be continuously milked for generations to come. He's still being milked to this day, thankfully. And this is how a lot of mascots and characters are created today. They take a look at stuff that's worked in the past and they try to make up their own version and see what would work with today's market. There's like no reason I needed to put that clip in there. I just wanted to do it. And even though he's owned by Viacom and Nickelodeon, who's almost as close to the reincarnation of Satan as possible, SpongeBob was not created by Viacom to be the next big animated series. What would really get them on the map and sell them the most toys and bed sheets and underwear. Out of all things, why did I say underwear? They're FBI, that's why it's in my search results, you can stop knocking on my door now. SpongeBob was just created by a guy, and that guy is Steven Hillenburg, an absolute legend, rock star, genius. May that man rest in heaven forever. Steven was a marine biologist, but he also loved animations and cartoons. And after spending some time working in marine biology, he went off to pursue animation at Cal Arts. The first seeds of what would eventually become SpongeBob were just there in this little comic he was doing. Not only taking place in the ocean, but there was a character in there called Bob the Sponge, who would, of course, turn into SpongeBob himself. After working on Rocko's Modern Life for a little bit, he eventually pitched his own show. And obviously, being a marine biologist, he loved these sea animals a lot. So instead of doing a show about rabbits or mouses, he was going to do a show with these sea creatures. It was eventually picked up by Nickelodeon. But before it was picked up, Steven had to do a lot of fighting to make sure SpongeBob would be what he wanted it to be. Such as SpongeBob being a young adult opposed to a child, not going to school, but settling on boating school as a compromise. This is one of the reasons I believe SpongeBob is as popular as he is. But we'll get to that later. The show wasn't always meant to be what it turned out to be. There were a lot of compromises that have to be made, and I'm sure there are even more that we don't even know about yet, including SpongeBob's name. It was supposed to be Sponge Boy, and the show would be called Sponge Boy Ahoy, but they ran into copyright issues, which turned it into SpongeBob SquarePants. But with all of these things effectively ironed out, SpongeBob aired on May 1st, 1999, after the Kids' Choice Awards, which is a very smart decision on Nickelodeon's part, might I add.
It's the never-before-seen sneak peek of SpongeBob SquarePants, right after the Kids' Choice Awards, next Saturday, May 1st.
Now, what happened to this little show after its premiere? Well, it kind of dominated the next 20 years of human existence.
Ghost it out, ghost on through platinum, don't got no toes for now, they boast it out. ATL, we grabbing for the gowns, come out.
Right from the start, SpongeBob was an instant success. But even then, it didn't reach its peak. The show still had a lot more great episodes to pump out and become even more popular over time. Some would say that it potentially hasn't even reached its peak yet. This thing could get even bigger. Because if you really think about it, I'd say SpongeBob's been the most popular in the past 10 years. The cartoon's still running. We've received 2 movies in theaters. If the SpongeBob characters weren't at Universal Studios, this meme would have never happened. And I don't think that this meme would have happened if it wasn't for the internet. Now, this isn't a video praising social media or technology or the internet, because there's a lot of problems with them, and there's a lot of problems with the people who use it. But open up your phone right now and go under any hashtag or trending topic and try not to find a SpongeBob meme. It's everywhere you go. Everyone loves SpongeBob. Nobody can hate him. You can't hate this. There have been a million videos on the internet about how SpongeBob isn't the same show he used to be. How the show went down in quality after the movie, yada yada yada. And this is not one of those videos, people. Yes, those early seasons are the most popular, the most funny, some of the best television that has ever graced our screens. Amazing stories, greatly paced stories, amazing characters and setups and structures and themes. SpongeBob is the example of what we should be, good people, happy people, not a constant spew of narcissism and negativity that always seems to sprout from our mouths 24/7. The dichotomy between SpongeBob and Squidward and how that makes the show what it is has already been discussed to the ends of the earth already. You can't lie, that is a really big part of what makes SpongeBob so special and why the show is still loved to this day. Some of my favorite SpongeBob episodes display two things that I think are very important in our lives: naivety and optimism. Not only as children is this what makes us exactly what we are, not knowing the world around us completely, but I still think even as an adult, even as a 19-year-old little twort myself, I think it's important to have those fundamentals as part of your character and personality as you traverse the world around you. The truth is, none of us have life figured out, and the truth is, none of us probably will until we're on our deathbeds. Even then, sometimes we're unable to understand it completely. And you know what? That's okay. Being 20 and still not fully understanding how to pay your taxes, it's okay. Our education system doesn't teach us that. But pay your taxes though, learn. Having your first child and not knowing what the heck to do, that's still okay. It's a new experience. It's something you can't learn. But when it's in your arms, that's when you learn, and that's when you become the best parent you can be. We're all still those kids playing adults. That's every single adult you see on the planet. None of us have anything figured out, and that is okay. That's fine. And you'll be fine. As corny as this may sound, SpongeBob kinda taught me that. He taught me to live life with a little bit of hope and optimism and happiness. Even when I'm down, even when I'm sad, which I can be, even when I show that to others, I'm able to get back up and be the person I truly am. I'm able to operate every task that I'm given with happiness because I know that I have a support system with people around me who love me. I'm doing something that I truly care about and love, even if it doesn't pay as well as a doctor. I'm able to still have that little bit of childlike wonderment inside of me, even if society might look at me like I'm different or tell me I'm not supposed to. I have this friend named Johnny. We've been childhood friends for years now. We've had our ups and downs, but we still have that little bit of childlike wonderment to this day. We still go out and look for Sonic the Hedgehog toys at Targets, recording it all, making jokes and having fun and being loud. But you know what? We're not causing any harm. We're not hurting anybody. We're just having fun. Is this the typical thing that teenage adults do? No. Hey, you know what? Looking for Sonic toys around at Target makes me some money, so I don't really... But even if YouTube wasn't my job, and entertainment wasn't my job, and this didn't make me money, who's to say the 13-year-old version of me who wasn't making money and doing this was any lesser? Every human has been corrupted, and I feel like I even if I have this mindset. I just know not to let that corruption and negativity guide me. I've had heartbreak, I've had trauma, but even after you experience all that, there's so much good that's happened. Don't focus on the bad that's gone now. There's so much good going on in your life. Focus on that. Let that drive you. That's what drives SpongeBob, and that's what makes SpongeBob so endearing, but not just that, so funny. Seeing that contrasted against Squidward, or even somebody evil who Squidward isn't really, like Plankton, perfectly exemplifies what they're trying to do with the show. Remember when we were talking about SpongeBob's origin and how he's originally supposed to be a child, but Steven fought for him to be an adult? A lot of people attribute SpongeBob to being a kid, and that's not really 100% the case. SpongeBob is an adult with childlike attributes. So while yes, kids can take a lot from that because SpongeBob very much so is like a child, at the same time he isn't one though. He's an adult, and there's a lot that adults can take from the way SpongeBob acts. This is why SpongeBob transcends generations, or generation, I don't know, it's only been 20 years. There's a reason why this show stuck with you as a child, why it stuck with you during your teen years, and why it's still with you now. It speaks to everybody. It's an inclusive show. It doesn't talk down to its viewers. It doesn't dumb down its humor. It's smart, it's well written, it's entertaining, and it's lovable. Sometimes it's just nice to watch something in somebody nice. And a lot of the entertainment I personally consume has a lot to do with drugs and sex and abuse and sadness and depression. And while yes, that produces so much great art, sometimes it's nice to just watch something fun, but something well made too. And that's the thing, I'm not gonna call SpongeBob some kind of turn your brain off entertainment. Because while yes, you can get stoned and watch it at 12 a.m. in the morning with the boys, which is a great time, there is nuance to the discussion here. SpongeBob has a lot of really stupid stuff, and that's where a lot of the memes come from, but it's good kind of stupid. But at the core of all of that is a heart and soul to this show. That's why this stuck around more than any other. There have been amazing shows directed towards kids over the years, but none of them deliver their message or theming as well as this. And trust me, there's some really great shows out there. But what makes up SpongeBob isn't just this dynamic of optimism and hope in SpongeBob's character. It's also the story. It's also the other characters. It's also the world that is made up. I don't think there's a better best friend character than Patrick. He's so funny and gullible and likable at the same time. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but the characters that they created were so freaking iconic, and they all bounce off each other so well due to their defining character traits. I feel like a lot of different series have their characters and their stereotypes, but they don't build on the stereotypes at all. It's just that character and that same running gag over and over and over again, rather than taking that stereotype and building upon it each episode. There isn't some overarching lore with the characters in SpongeBob, but they put them in a new situation every time, and there's a different way that personality trait shines out. Speaking of those situations, SpongeBob is able to take certain tasks or scenarios and make a very engaging, funny, and entertaining story out of them. Whether that's selling chocolates or pizza delivery or having a sleepover, the characters and the contrast between them work so well, and they know when to do it. They know when to combine certain characters.
You got it set to M for Minnie, when it should be set to W for Wumbo.
For a pizza delivery episode, we're not sure how a Patrick and SpongeBob would go. Would that have been better than this? Squidward's cynical attitude and SpongeBob's fun and optimism bounce off each other so well to make one of, if not the most iconic episode of the series. The SpongeBob movie that came out in 2004, I feel, and I think everybody feels, was the culmination of all of this. SpongeBob's character, the theming of the show, that optimism and the contrast between that and growing up, that has been a staple of the show for those 3 seasons. It had SpongeBob's character confront his growth, his youthfulness, his happiness, his optimism. What made SpongeBob SpongeBob, what made him a goofy goober.
I'm a goofy goober!
It's such a great piece of SpongeBob media, and even though everyone loves it, I don't think it gets enough love. Even if it is one of my favorite coming-of-age movies on Letterboxd. All of this, the 3 seasons, the movie made SpongeBob what it was, but what everyone talks about, well, kind of, is what changed after this. There's always the saying that SpongeBob went downhill after the movie, and that is the case. There's no topping these first 3 seasons. And while there are some lows, and yes, it's very low lows, I don't think all of these seasons are as bad as people say. There are just also some of the worst episodes ever put to television with inside those seasons. And while yes, stuff like this should definitely not be excused,
SpongeBob, I told you not to move it till I...
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, there's really no place to put an appropriate warning for that. I think when your main showrunner leaves, somebody who created this universe and world and truly knew these characters unlike anybody else and unlike anyone who did or will know. So let me try this again. I'm not saying that this should be excused, but I'm also saying it should have kind of been expected. It should be expected that these seasons aren't going to be as good as the originals. I'm not saying they should have continued on with the show, because if we're being honest, the show kind of should have ended with that 3rd season in the movie. It's kind of perfect, like literally perfect. And I know everybody and their mother says that, but they're kind of right. But let's think about this. If that did happen, if they did shut down shop after the first movie, would we have what we have now? Would our culture be the same? Would SpongeBob be involved in our daily vocabulary? Would those quotes be spouting out of our mouths every second? Would he be a popular, although kind of tacky, part of streetwear? Would he still be watched by millions of kids around the world on television screens if that went off the air in 2005? There's really no definitive answer, because that's not what happened. What happened is a long-running TV series that spanned into the biggest media empire on the planet. What we did get, though, was more of that show, 2 more movies, multiple spin-offs, but we'll get to that, merchandise galore, a big presence at multiple theme parks, and as corny as this may sound, a place in everyone's hearts around the world. But even in the timeline of the show still going on, none of it would have happened if SpongeBob, the character that we love, who he is, that optimistic, lovable dork, wasn't who he was at his core the entire time. It wasn't perfect. They definitely made some missteps along the way. But I feel like that's going to happen when you have a show that runs for over 20 years. At his core, SpongeBob is still SpongeBob, and everyone knows that. But even if this SpongeBob isn't your SpongeBob, you'll always have your SpongeBob forever. You'll have hours upon hours of entertainment, timeless classic entertainment to consume and love and pass down to your kids. Now, it's only been 20 years, not nearly as long as those aforementioned characters early on in the video. Those characters have become more of cultural monuments rather than participating figures in the culture today. Even though they try, oh dear God, do they try. Even when it seems like SpongeBob's going so far off the deep end, He's still true to himself at the end of the day, surprising many. I'm sure everyone thought Sponge Out of Water was the end. They were like, this is it, this is where the franchise dies, what the heck is this? And then the movie's really freaking good. I think SpongeBob set up for, honestly, a better trajectory than a lot of those characters. You see, for the first 20 years, those other mascots or franchises, they didn't have social media. And while social media and the internet wasn't a big thing during SpongeBob's early years, the kids who grew up with it when it first released, once when they got older, around their teens or early adults, they were finally able to spread the franchise and the show around the internet. This comes in a variety of different forms, whether that's memes or being an actual SpongeBob fan or simply being able to reference it to other people around the world. Other characters like Mickey Mouse, his legacy was long submitted since before the internet was around. Not only are the characters well designed, not only the gags are well thought out, but the show is written well. And that's why it's able to stick. There's so much that goes into the show and so much that has made this character and series so special. It's all thanks to Steven. He created this world, he created this character. He had an idea for how a kid's show could work, but not just a kid's show that could be inclusive to everybody. Something that could teach kids valuable lessons about their approach in life, but also make adults think the same. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for that core base of what SpongeBob was as a character and franchise, it would not be as successful today. He continued to influence the show from its very beginning, even taking a backseat for some seasons, but then returning for the Sponge Out of Water movie in 2015, where then after that he returned to the show as a genuine member of it. Many say that the show went up in quality, but I'll be honest, I don't see that much of a difference. It's not the original 3 seasons, and I don't think anybody's saying that, but I don't think it's that much of a departure from what the show was doing only a couple years earlier. Once again, I think that it's kind of blown out of proportion how bad those post-season 3 seasons are. It might be some subconscious thing now that Steven's back, so you think that it's better, but I don't know. But things are going great for SpongeBob. You still have that legacy content from the early 2000s. You're having success with the movie, the show's picking up steam again. Fans are loving it, everything's great. But then we got some heartbreaking news. On March 14th, 2017, Steven Hillenburg revealed that he had ALS. If you don't know what ALS is, it's a nervous system disease that weakens muscles and impacts physical function. As of right now, ALS can't be cured. In his statement, Steven stated he would work on SpongeBob as long as he was able. Next year, on November 27th, 2018, Steven Hillenburg passed away. Steven Hillenburg left behind a legacy unlike many have been able to in all of history, at least in terms of entertainment. What I loved about what Steven created was that he made something that was true to him, something that he loved and was passionate about. He was able to create something good, something that meant something that was fun and joyful and not filled with constant negativity. Even if he didn't intend this to happen, SpongeBob became one of the biggest things ever. And it wasn't created to make the most money for the network. It was created because Steven was passionate about the show and wanted to make something that he cared about. I'm not going to act like I knew Steven personally and what he stood for in his personal life, but what I'll take away is what he left us. And that was SpongeBob, a character that tells us to keep going, to have fun, to enjoy the little bits of life. Because we're only on here for 100 years maximum, so why not make the most of it in the time we have? You may get knocked down, you may get discouraged, but you always get up again. Life isn't perfect, and life isn't easy, and SpongeBob acknowledges that, but it's how you handle that makes up your life. It's oddly beautiful in a way that someone's life who was cut tragically so short created a story about how to handle that life, how to approach it, not just as a kid, but as an adult, how to make the most of it no matter how short or long it may be. That's what SpongeBob taught me. And I wouldn't have been taught that if it wasn't for Steven. So where did the franchise go post Hillenburg? Well, I don't think it's a surprise to say that the show was still running, and I think it will be running for the next, forever? We received a new movie since then, Sponge on the Run, and he's still growing as a cultural icon. I was going to dedicate a section to the end of this video to talk about Spongebob Spin-Offs, such as Camp Coral or the Patrick Star Show, which I do not personally enjoy. I think it's known that Steven would not have liked these and would have never have made these himself. But, I think it's kind of been talked to death. Yeah, these aren't great, and it's kind of what happens when corporate greed gets in the way of creativity and genuine art and passion. I'm not going to let them off the hook, so you're bad, I don't like you. go away. But I kind of just don't want this to end on a sour note. I want to appreciate what this franchise and Steven gave us, something that has impacted all of our lives. I know I've talked this point in particular to death, but SpongeBob as a character taught me to be a better person, to be a happier person, to treat life like it's so short, because it can all end tomorrow. So let's make the most of it in the time that we have. Let's be happy, let's love one another. Do what you love and don't care what others think. If you're not hurting anybody and in fact you're doing a great thing and it provides you genuine happiness, go for it. Once again, that's what SpongeBob taught me, but I think more importantly, that's what Steven taught me.